Hi everyone, Grant K here for the Flame Premium Learning channel. In the previous video, we finished looking at the extra options for all action surface types. In this video, we will look at the bilinear and the perspective surface. We'll start off with the bilinear surface, as this is what existing Flame Premium and Smoke Advanced artists have been used to. As I mentioned in previous videos, the action surfaces always had plenty of 3D functionality. However, a lot of this functionality was hidden from the creative level. Previous versions had the edit offset function that gave some control over the bilinear surface, but most artists had difficulty working with it. So by exposing the vertices and UV point model within all action surface types should make this a lot easier. To show this, I'll quickly recap a four-corner pinning workflow. Place the 4 vertices points on the tracking markers in the screen. Make sure you are looking at the vertices menu. Now to track a bilinear surface, you need to control select each point as the tracker is now selection based. The stabilizer is set to track each point. Going into the stabilizer, you have a tracker per selected vertex. The tracker boxes are already placed based on their vertices' exact position. I'll perform the track. Coming out of the stabilizer, the surface is now tracked to the background. In previous versions, artists would have used edit offset to reposition the corners of the image surface. To recreate this, press Alt-2 for the 2-up view. Bring up the object view on the left view by pressing F8. So if you start adjusting the UV points in the object view, you are recreating exactly what edit offsets did. However, an easier way to adjust the texture is to do it directly in the result view. So press Shift-S to switch to the Slide Texture tool. Just to make this obvious, the surface's corners are attached to the tracking markers. However, we want to align the corners of the screen, which is beyond the image surface. So to ensure that the texture can expand beyond its surface, go to the Surfaces menu and turn off Crop. Now using Slide Texture, select each vertex and move it to its corresponding corner. You adjust the texture in the direction you want, and the software works out the corresponding data in the object view. You don't really have to have the object view visible, but it's handy to see how the texture is being remapped to the surface. Scrubbing the time bar, you can see that all the settings stick. So that's a summarized workflow using a bilinear surface type. So how does this differ from the perspective surface type? Well, the perspective and bilinear surfaces are physically identical to each other, but with one big difference. Let me show you. If I take a bilinear surface and attempt to fit it to a shot with perspective, you start getting warping in the image. Lines are not straight, and the perspective angle is not correct on the surface. However, if I switch to a perspective surface, you can now see proper perspective distortion being applied to match the physical shape of the surface. I'll just flick between the surfaces so you can see the difference with or without perspective being taken into account. So here is a very important point about the perspective surface. The perspective deformation is being applied onto the 2D plane, and the surface is not being repositioned in 3D space. So you're still seeing the surface perpendicular to the camera. If I was to rotate the surface, you will see that the surface's physical shape is still flat. Please don't confuse this with the perspective grid tool. The perspective grid uses 4 points to create a 3D axis transformation that aligns layers with the correct perspective in 3D space. So the perspective surfaces is really a good alternative fake for 4-corner pinning in a variety of shots. Similar to the bilinear surface, the vertices of the perspective surface can be tracked for 4-corner pinning. However, the perspective surface also has another tracking mode known as perspective tracking. This will be covered in a future video. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the Flame Premium Learning channel for future videos.